Hello, I'm Beth Britton. I support Dementia Community with their communications work. Welcome and thank you for joining us for our first September webinar. Before we get on to the topic for today, I wanted to briefly explain a little more about Dementia Community. Dementia Community is a charitable community benefit society, a membership cooperative that provides learning and networking opportunities for the dementia care community. We are an independent voice and inclusive organisation aiming to help all of our members to feel connected, informed, inspired, empowered, purposeful and engaged in co-produced changes that improve everyone's experiences of dementia, both in care and in wider society. This webinar is just one example of the many ways in which we do this. Community members own a £1 community share in Dementia Community and membership is open to everyone. So if you haven't already joined us, please do. You can use the QR code on your screen to scan with your phone or the link that I will put in the chat shortly, or you can visit our membership page. If you're having any difficulties in joining Dementia Community, please do message Mel or myself and we will aim to help. One of the benefits of being a member is a discount to our in-person events, which includes our flagship UK Dementia Congress, which actually the title of this webinar and the content of this webinar very much fits with forthcoming Congress, which is in November. It's going to be in its 19th year. It's going to be held in Manchester on the 17th and 18th of November. Early bird tickets end on the 26th of September, so do grab yours. The programme is being finalised, it looks fantastic and it's absolutely not to be missed, and it's going to include a live session from Giles's organisation Manchester Camerata as well. So do follow that QR code on your screen or the link that I will put in the chat shortly. I'd also like to highlight a new initiative that we've begun. It's the editor's pick from the Journal of Dementia Care. This is a free article chosen by the editor of the journal and it's shared to give you a taste of the content of the journal. Please use the QR code on the screen or the link that I will pop into the chat to read the article. Remember, if you are a member of Dementia Community, one of your benefits is a 25% discount on a subscription to JDC. So if you do enjoy this editor's pick, do consider subscribing. And it's a particularly timely editor's pick this month because rehabilitation is going to be the theme of the forthcoming World Alzheimer's Report, which is out on the 18th of September. Finally, for my little announcement, we have two free special issues of the Journal of Dementia Care, Equality in the Arts in Dementia Care. Again, please use the QR codes on the screen or the links in the chat to read these issues. I will share an email address in the chat for you to contact us. Please do note that our printed editions, these are two special editions. Otherwise, JDC is a digital only publication. So let's get on to the topic for today. Music and Dementia, the UK's first centre of excellence. I will introduce you to our speaker shortly, but just some brief housekeeping first. So we are recording this webinar, so if you don't want your face on the recording, please turn your camera off. Please use the chat for your questions. We will have a Q&A and discussion after the presentation, and we will be keeping an eye on the chat during the presentation as well. We hope to have some live participation, so if you would like to ask your question yourself at the end, you are very welcome to. Please raise your hand to let us know you would like to do that. And afterwards, the recording will go onto our YouTube channel, which is the Journal of Dementia Care. So please do look out for that as well. So let's get started then. Our speaker for today is Giles Wilmore, who is the Director of Community at Manchester Camerata and the Programme Director for the UK's first Centre of Excellence for Music and Dementia. Absolute joy to have you with us, Giles. You and I have worked together before. I know you're going to be fantastic. So I'm going to hand over to you. Just give me a moment to make you a host if you want to begin to talk. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Beth, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm really pleased to be on the webinar this afternoon. Hopefully it's going to be of interest to you all, and I will try and make it as interactive as possible. What I'm going to do is start with a short film, that just gives you a flavour of how one of the Music in Mind music sessions runs. We call them music cafes. And then I'll give you a little bit more background. I have a short presentation that'll go a little bit through the background to Music in Mind, how it evolved, what the evidence is of it, how it's structured, and where we're hoping to take it. And then I'll talk about the work we're doing on Music in Mind and with a wide range of other partners through the Centre of Excellence that Beth has already mentioned. So this is the technical bit now where I try and share the screen and show you a short video.
Music for people living with dementia are being introduced across Greater Manchester. We reported on this project. It's being run by the Manchester Camerata a few months ago. Well, now it's Music in Mind programme. It's being enjoyed across all 10 boroughs. It's run by professional musicians and volunteers, and it encourages people who are living with dementia and their carers to socialise. Isabel Fry has been to take a look.
Singing, dancing, percussion, everything you'd expect from a music cafe. However, there's a slight difference to this one. It's supporting people living with dementia and their carers.
She just was sleeping or, watching telly, whereas this, it gets the brain going, and yeah, they're just amazing. Sometimes you can feel isolated, and so being with a group like this, it will be beneficial for both of you now. So, it's really a lifeline.
Volunteers and local charities are working with the Manchester Camerata team to bring the sessions to life.
It makes a really big difference. I think it's really important to create an environment where those affected by dementia can come together and be, connect with each other and really support each other. And for the carers to see that as well and really see that communication and that connection. Yeah, it's vital.
It's hoped the funding will go towards helping over 1,000 people living with dementia in Greater Manchester, as well as training up 300 volunteers to run their very own music cafe, just like this one. Professional musicians from the Camerata lead the sessions, and in the future, they hope to see music as a permanent part of dementia care.
I'm going to share with you now a short slide presentation. Hopefully that's appearing on your screen okay. So as Beth has kindly already mentioned, my name is Giles Wilmore. I'm the Director of Community at Manchester Camerata. So that's the host organisation. Music in Mind is the programme I'm going to be largely talking about today. Just moving on to the next slide. Manchester Camerata is actually an orchestra, so we're a registered charity, not-for-profit organisation, but Manchester Camerata is primarily a musical organisation that performs a wide range of music. So you can see from the slide here, we do everything from traditional classical music, full orchestra, down to quintets and quartets, but we also do quite a lot of what you might call different genres of music. We've even opened at Glastonbury, doing Hacienda Classical. We do lots of collaborations with different types of musicians from different cultures and different traditions. So really what Camerata is pushing the boundaries of what's possible through music and really using music as a vehicle to engage as many people as possible and improve the quality of their lives. And that's very much the mission that drives us in the community work. So Music in Mind is one of the community programs we run. We run a number of others, working particularly with young people and children in schools. But community work focusing on people living with dementia is through our Music in Mind program. So I'll say a little bit more about what that is. So Music in Mind is using the principles and techniques of music therapy. We call it a music therapy based program because it's not always delivered by qualified music therapists, although it has been designed and developed by the music therapists that work with Manchester Camerata. It uses a whole range of improvisation techniques to allow people living with dementia and their family carers and professional carers where relevant to use music as a tool to express themselves. And what you've seen here is, sorry, I'm just admitting some more people. If I can do that, I don't know what I've done there. I'm going to leave that well alone. Sorry, everybody. What you saw in the short video was a range of handheld percussion instruments. So there's something there for all abilities to use. And so when, for example, we've done this work in care homes and we have people there who tend to be more advanced, sadly, in the progression of their dementia, and they may, for instance, be non-verbal, we have very simple shakers and rattles that people can use to express themselves. In our community settings where people are perhaps coming along much sooner after their initial diagnosis and are still able to interact with more complex instruments, we have xylophones, drums, quite a wide variety. And the idea is that the people in the session are leading the session. We're improvising the music around them, and the music is a form of expression that they're using to communicate, to build social bonds, to express themselves, to allow their creativity, and generally to have a good time. And so everybody sits in a circle, whether you're a musician, a participant living with dementia, a carer, one of our volunteers, which I'll come on to in a moment. Everybody participates and joins together. Now, the music champions are the volunteers or staff that we work with to help run and facilitate these music sessions. We've been doing this for about 12 years now, running Music in Mind programs, but when we hit COVID, like everybody else, we had to change the way in which we worked quite dramatically, because we found that obviously we couldn't go into care homes or other settings to deliver the sessions live ourselves. We started trying to do this online and we realized it didn't work as well as face-to-face. So the idea came about that, well, if we could train the care staff in those care homes to be able to facilitate the sessions without our musicians there, then the residents throughout that COVID period still benefit from having their own face-to-face music sessions with appropriate social distancing and so on. And so that's what we did. We set about developing this concept of music champions. Now, clearly, we can't train somebody to become a fully qualified music therapist in a short period of time. So we're very careful to talk about this being music therapy based, but the program is based and developed by qualified registered music therapists. It's based on those techniques. We have quite a carefully worked out curriculum now. So the music therapy training is effectively on the job. It's by volunteers or staff of local host organisations and partners, whether that's a care home, supported living, community group, in a hospital setting. It can be anywhere where we have a room, we have people living with dementia wanting to come together to benefit from one of the sessions, and we have staff or volunteers of a partner organisation able to facilitate and lead the session. And so the training is both on the job and online. It follows quite a carefully developed curriculum. We back this up with online resources. So the person who's facilitating the session doesn't need to be able to play any musical instruments. You saw in the film there, Richard, one of our musicians playing a keyboard. And of course, when you have professional musicians involved, they can play a wide variety of instruments. But the model is very much based on not having to have any musical skills whatsoever, whether you're a music champion facilitating the session or whether you're a participant joining in. And we get round that by providing a wide range of what we call backing tracks. And these are carefully pre-recorded instrumental music created by our musicians to allow the percussion music making to sit on top of the backing music. So they're in all sorts of different paces, genres and styles. Some of them will be tunes that are well known that people will recognize. Others are a little bit more abstract and allow spontaneous and improvised music making. And so the music champion can use the phone or a tablet to play these tracks through a Bluetooth speaker, and the music can be provided without any musical instruments in the room. And so, any tuned musical instruments that, the music champions would have to play. But it's a very flexible model. Music champions, we find, often volunteer because they are interested in music, and they may have, once played an instrument and now they're encouraged to bring it along and dust it off and have a go again. So the key purpose is that the music champions can facilitate the music sessions indefinitely. All the musicians who work for Manchester Camerata are employed freelance. So when they're there facilitating sessions, obviously we pay them their going rates, and that means that to make the session sustainable and long term, you're really looking to get to a point where people and community groups and care homes can run them themselves without the need to be paying professional musicians every week to come in and do this for them. So I'm just going to show you a very short clip, if this works, of one of our music champions talking about the benefit of becoming a music champion. This is a young lady called Beth from Millennium Care Homes in Wigan, who was featured on BBC Breakfast TV last year. Hopefully this will work.
Absolutely. So in a music and mind session, we not only allow people to express their emotions and to feel them, but we give them a chance to have those feelings acknowledged. And so then that also allows for emotional regulation. So we have people who maybe enter the session feeling a little bit distressed, a little bit anxious, and then throughout the session we see those feelings being eased.
And I was looking at some of the things you've been saying about how that also helps them maybe eat, take medication, because suddenly they're in a new mindset and they're receptive to sorts of...
Absolutely. So the music and mind techniques and skills that I've learned from Amina and the team at the Camerata can be woven throughout the day. So music is becoming part of the fabric of our homes.
Right, I'll just jump back to the core presentation. That was Amina, one of our principal resident music therapists, on the couch there with Beth. But that gives you a little bit of a flavour of what the music champions get out of this, which is a whole increase in their own confidence, skills and knowledge, whether they're family members. What we hear from family members is they learn skills and techniques they can use at home to support their loved one. And in the case of Beth, they're a professional carer within a care home setting, again, learning skills and confidence they can use throughout their working day. Just moving on, where this has come from, it's a 12-year collaboration with the University of Manchester. And this is a really important point for us, that the work around music in mind from the outset has been underpinned by research and evaluation. So there are about 8 now, I think the latest count, of published research papers by colleagues at Manchester University. And I'm going to share some. The final slide has links in, and these can be shared and circulated with attendees afterwards. So you can access all of this research if you're interested in reading it. But essentially, what we've been able to demonstrate through the research of our colleagues at Manchester University is that music in mind brings real benefits to people living with dementia, both in terms of their communication, their creativity, their ability to connect with people, but also in terms of reducing their distress levels, their agitation, and therefore it has potential wider benefits, not only for the person living with dementia, but the health and care system as a whole, which, as you will all know, spends a large amount of money supporting, caring for and administering drugs and other healthcare interventions to people living with dementia. Does it work? There's a wide range of evidence here, and the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Arts, Health and Wellbeing found that music reduces agitation and the need for medication in around 2/3 of people with dementia. So you can see that's a significant proportion. And our own evaluation is that the vast majority, 90% of participants, have experienced improved communication and decreased levels of anxiety, frustration and agitation. We've got a wide range of testimony from family members, from music champions, from care staff. The link in this slide, which I won't show just because we'll run out of time, is an activities coordinator at a care home talking in depth about the benefits music in mind has brought to the care home where she works. Now, moving on to the Centre of Excellence for Music and Dementia. This is a 3-year programme that was launched last year, so we're just over a year into it. It's funded by an organisation called the National Academy for Social Prescribing. You can see there that's listed as one of our research and academic partners. For those who haven't heard of them, the National Academy for Social Prescribing are a charity. They were set up about 4 years ago by the then government as an independent body to promote research and evidence around social prescribing. I know many of you will be familiar with the term, but for those that aren't, social prescribing is really about how you can connect people in communities with long-term health issues, such as dementia, with non-medical support that helps their health and well-being. And so the premise is that through using social prescribing and connecting people with better community-based support, we can not cure, sadly, the condition that's affecting their health and well-being, but we can alleviate the symptoms, we can make the quality of their life much greater, and as a result of which, not only do they benefit from a better quality of life than they would otherwise have, but we potentially defer pressure and demands on our overstretched health and social care services. So that was very much the premise under which this Centre of Excellence was set up. The National Academy draws its funding from bodies like the Arts Council and philanthropic foundations, in this case the Utley Foundation, a family trust fund that was keen to promote support for music and dementia. And the programme has been match funded in Greater Manchester by the NHS and the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, which is the body that brings together the 10 local authorities of Greater Manchester. And we've had strong support from our Mayor, Andy Burnham. So you can see a lot of other logos on this slide. There are lots of partners involved. I'll talk through them briefly. At a national level, we're also partnering with the Alzheimer Society. As you will appreciate, Manchester Camerata, as I've said, is a music organisation. We have a lot of expertise in music therapy, but we are not specialists in the care and support of people with dementia. So we've partnered with the UK's biggest dementia charity to bring that expertise into the programme. And the Alzheimer's Society are involved in all parts of the programme, which I'll go through in a little bit more detail. We're also partnering with a group called Dementia United, which is an alliance in Greater Manchester of NHS, local government, voluntary sector, people with lived experience as carers and living with dementia. So it brings together a wide range of people with a personal or specialist interest in dementia across Greater Manchester. We then have another research partner, as I've already mentioned, the University of Manchester. I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment, but we continue to partner with them on, they will be leading the research and evaluation around this programme. And then we partner with a wide range of local charities within Greater Manchester. You can see some of the logos at the bottom there, and I think that actually needs updating because we've got a much larger number of partners there now. But these are the organisations with local branches in the community around the city region that support the music cafes. So these are the people whose staff and volunteers train to become music champions and actually deliver the music making sessions alongside our musicians. So what are we trying to achieve in the Centre of Excellence? There are three real elements to it. The top line there is about delivery. What are we delivering? And this is fundamentally what it's all about. We are delivering as many opportunities as we can across Greater Manchester for people living with dementia to be supported on a regular basis through music. So our ambition is to establish at least 40 new music cafes over the first 2 years of the programme. We're about just over halfway through that now, and we're up to over 30 music cafes already. Half of these are going to be run by ourselves at Manchester Camerata. Half of them are going to be run by the Alzheimer's Society. At the Manchester Camerata music cafes, we'll be doing our music in mind approach that I've already outlined. In the Alzheimer's Society music cafes, they will be using their Singing for the Brain technique, which many of you will have heard of. This is a national programme that the Society has been running for some time, where they encourage people living with dementia and family carers to come together and to join in singing sessions where music is provided through a keyboard player and song lyrics and sheets are passed out so that everybody can sing along together, and that encourages both memory and reminiscence and participation as well. So the idea is that wherever you live in Greater Manchester, there will be an opportunity to join in a music group somewhere near you, with over 40 of these groups dotted around all 10 boroughs of the city region. We're looking to train 300 music champions. Now, this again is a shared target between ourselves and the Alzheimer's Society. So it will include people who volunteer and staff who run the Alzheimer's Society Singing for the Brain groups, as well as those volunteering to run the Music in Mind sessions. And the crucial area is that we are hoping to reach at least 1,000 people living with dementia, which seems like a big number, but the latest estimated total of people living with dementia across Greater Manchester is over 30,000. So it gives you a sense of the scale of the challenge. But if we can reach this number of people and we can embed these music cafes across all parts of the city region, we have a real chance of tipping the balance and demonstrating at a large scale how music really can improve the quality of people's lives. And make it easier for family carers and professional carers to support people with dementia. The impact, as I've said, will be evaluated through the research programme with Manchester University. We have two primary focuses for the evaluation and impact. We will be looking at the GM care record with appropriate consent from people living with dementia or family members next of kin where they aren't able to make their own informed consent. What this does is effectively asks them if they will consent to be part of the research evaluation. We don't access people's overall healthcare record. We basically, with appropriate consent, the GM care record is a great opportunity now in Greater Manchester because it links together different healthcare data sets and allows you to look at things like how long somebody has been in hospital for, whether they've had unplanned hospital admissions, what medication they're required to be prescribed, how often they've seen their GP, and so on and so forth. So what we're looking to demonstrate through this programme is typical of many social prescribing research studies in that it starts to demonstrate a financial business case for the NHS to invest more in preventative community-based programmes like this that supplement and work alongside clinical medical-based models. And so what we typically see in social prescribing evaluations of this nature is a reduction of anywhere between 15 and 40% of NHS usage. So people are less needing to go to the doctors, less likely to have unplanned admissions to hospital, less likely to end up in A&E, which of course is great for them. Nobody wants to end up in hospital if they don't need to, but it's also good for the health service because it starts to manage hard-pressed resources and pressure on services a little bit better. Alongside that evaluation, we're also working with clinical colleagues, with the medical directors for dementia in Greater Manchester, to see how we can embed music support as a care option into care and support plans. There's a programme in Greater Manchester to bring care and support planning for people with dementia into a digital format, the same format for all healthcare professionals involved, which is quite a challenge because, as many of you will know, different parts of the health system currently use different record systems, GP practices, community services, hospitals, etc. So this is to try and move them all onto a single digital dementia care and support plan process, and for us to embed music as an option within that. And this hopefully then will then stimulate healthcare professions to offer that, to say, oh, I wonder if this person would be interested. Let's ask them. I wonder if they'd benefit from being part of this support through music. And the final part of the programme is to share learning and good practice. So we have established a learning network, and that currently has focused on around 60 organisations. And for all I know, some of you may be on the call today, but these are often smaller local charities and other organisations that are providing music support to people living with dementia, and we're in receipt of small grants from the Power of Music programme. So we're currently facilitating that network. We had a launch event in Manchester a year ago, and we now have monthly webinars to bring that network together and to share good practice and experience, not only from what we're doing at the Centre of Excellence, but from other member organisations throughout that community, very much with an eye on learning from each other. And we're looking to grow that network as we go forward to try and involve people from the health and care system as well as those providing music support. So my last slide is just one with further information on it. As I say, these slides can all be shared. We have two different websites where all the information you might want can be found. So www.musicinmind.org is the core website for the programme Music in Mind. It has a lot of information about the Centre of Excellence. It has sections on the evidence. It has films and testimony from people who've been involved in Music in Mind. And it also has a schedule if any of you are in and around Greater Manchester and want to come along and witness a music cafe. It has a schedule of when and where the music cafes are all happening. The parent organisation, as I say, is Manchester Camerata, and that has its own website, manchestercamerata.co.uk, which includes, again, a section on our community work, but will ultimately link you back to the musicinmind.org. Just do take a careful note if you're looking for that. There are at least two other organisations in the UK going by the name Music in Mind. So just to be clear, we are www.musicinmind.org. And that's my last slide. So I think I'm going to take these down now, stop sharing. I haven't, I'm afraid, been able to look into the chat, but I don't know, Beth, if we can now open that up.
Giles, I've been so busy sorting out my technical problems. I haven't been particularly brilliant at sorting out questions myself, actually. But one of the things I was going to say is, and I think you know this, my dad, I was a carer to my dad, and we found that music was just incredibly powerful for him right through to the end of his life. Now, I appreciate that what you do with the Camerata is obviously for people who are still quite able-bodied, who are still able to do quite a lot, who come to your sessions, etc. Is there anything around people in the latter stages of dementia where music can be particularly helpful that you've discovered or that you're working on?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is what I've outlined, Beth, around Music in Mind. That model we have worked with in a variety of different sessions. Now, in our previous programme, we were funded primarily to work in care homes. And so we were then working much more with people whose dementia tended to be much more advanced, who were often non-verbal, who often physically were really quite limited. What you found is that those sessions tended to be a bit slower and a bit more sort of immersive, and tended to be smaller groups of people, and were certainly not as lively in terms of the noise levels as the one that you saw in the short video that I showed earlier on. So I think the model and the approach works at any stage of the dementia journey. In terms of other techniques and approaches, I think any exposure to music helps tremendously. So there are lots of things around like Playlists for Life, Music Can, websites and tools that people can access that encourage them to access music that would be resonant for their loved one, things that remind them of their own youth, their own childhood, the kind of music that that they like, that they're going to connect with, and tools that allow you to download this, create personalized playlists and so on, so that you can just have music playing as a calming and connecting influence. For example, even if somebody isn't necessarily able to physically respond to that, then we know from science that hearing is the last of the key senses to go. So we know that people will be able to hear that even if they're perhaps not able to respond in the way that they once were. So I would say music of any format is incredibly powerful there in connecting and healing for people and calming. But I think most techniques that use music therapy-based approaches can be adapted for any stage in the dementia sort of journey, because it's very much based on a person-centered technique. It's around the participant being in the lead and about focusing the music at the level that they want to engage with, whatever that may be.
Brilliant. Thank you, Giles. Thank you very, very much. So we have some questions coming in the chat. Just to pick up on something you've just said, Giles spoke there about Playlist for Life. We actually did a webinar with Playlist for Life last year. So I'm going to go and hunt around for the link quickly and pop that in the chat for you. I'm going to pop the links in that I promised earlier that I wasn't able to pop in as well. So I'm going to put those in now, and then I'm going to ask you, Giles, for just give me 1 second. To answer some of the questions that let me just sort that out.
Yeah, I can see the chat now, Beth. If you want me to,
yeah. So do you want us to start from the top then, Giles?
Yeah. How do you record feedback from people with dementia? Essentially, we have to do this because of ethical concerns through the university. As you will appreciate, there are very strict criteria for how you work with people with diminished capacity. And so where we're recording feedback directly from people with dementia themselves, as opposed to family members, carers, or music champions, then we apply for ethical approval through the university, and they will then conduct structured interviews, and again, with appropriate consent from those individuals. So we don't routinely record feedback from people with dementia all the time for those reasons. Of course, what you do get is all the anecdotal feedback. So what you get, and really this is the most powerful and moving thing. So although we may not, after every session, be formally recording feedback from people with dementia, then they tell you what an amazing session it's been. They tell you how much they've enjoyed it. You get into a conversation. And part of the reason I wanted to show you the short film was just to give you a flavour of what the music cafes can be like, because there's nothing like experiencing it firsthand to see how powerful and moving it can be, particularly if you go along to a music cafe where the same person has been going for a number of weeks, and you see them start to come out of themselves, you see the progression, and you see their confidence grow, and somebody that might initially be quite withdrawn becomes quite sociable and much more engaged as time goes on. So yes, we have a lot of anecdotal feedback, which isn't formally, if you like, gathered or fed into the research that we just hear from being in cafes. But when it comes to formally recording it, that's a process with the university around ethical approvals and structured interviews.
Brilliant. Thank you, Giles. I've just popped a link in the bottom of the chat there for our Playlist for Life webinar, because obviously Giles spoke about personal playlists and how useful they can be as dementia progresses. So the next question is from Kate, who says, can you tell us more about the music champion training? And there's been a little follow-up question. I think you can handle the two together.
Yeah.
Accessed outside of Manchester?
The short answer to the second question so far is no, but we'd love it to be able to. And let me come back to that when I've said a little bit more about the training. The training is largely hands-on. So what we ask for the Music Champion volunteers to do is to be available for 2 hours a week at the same time on the same day each week. And that will involve half an hour before the music cafe starts, where they come together as a group, usually between 3 and 6 of them, and they work with 1 or 2 musicians. And so they will have what we call a handbook, which is essentially a structured curriculum that we provide. So each week they will focus on one new technique. It might be, for example, something like mirroring, which is where you literally reflect back to the person living with dementia what they're doing. So if they're shaking a rattle or a beater in a certain rhythm, then you do the same back, and it encourages and supports them to feel that they've been recognized and heard and become more engaged. And so these are all techniques that are based on principles and practice of music therapy. So essentially what our music therapists are doing is teaching some of these core basic techniques to the music champions. So they run through them. Then in the music cafe itself, the music champions are encouraged to practice that, whatever the theme for the week is, and to hone their skills in it. And at the end, there's a half-hour wrap-up session after the music cafe has ended, which is very much about discussion and reflection and understanding what worked, what didn't work, how it might have worked better. So it's very much on the job training, if you like. We supplement it with online webinars, a bit like this, that any of the music champions can join from across any of our music cafes, so that we can bring up any themes or issues that they know. So they can bring up any themes or issues that are concerning them, where they want a bit more advice, and our musicians and music therapists will staff those webinars and offer that advice. And then twice a year, we do what we call an Inspiration Day, which is a big celebration of all the music cafes, where we invite everybody face to face to Gorton Monastery, where we're based, where they can not only meet colleagues doing work in similar music cafes, but we do more training, we do more practice, and we do a little bit of opportunity for each of the music cafes to talk about their journey. All this material is in our website. What we do when Music Champions enlist is there's a section of the website which you get a login for, so it's not open to the general public. It contains the handbook, the curriculum. It contains short video tutorials that you can work your way through, so 2 or 3 minutes with a music therapist demonstrating each of the techniques you can use. And we basically use that as a structured curriculum. It's not a formally accredited training course. It's not a qualification as such, although we do give everybody a certificate when they finish the program. We've looked at whether we should try and get this accredited, and at the moment we've decided not to, because what we very much want to do is make this accessible and open to anybody who's interested in volunteering, and the idea of doing formal accredited training sometimes puts people off. The reason it's not accessible outside Greater Manchester at the moment is simply our current funding through the Centre of Excellence is only to recruit and train music champions within Greater Manchester. But what we're very much trying to do as part of the development of the Centre of Excellence is find partners in other parts of the country that want to set their own programme up and where we could work with them. From our point of view, we'd be more than happy to make the training available in other parts of the country. We're not possessive or territorial about it. Just unfortunately, as an organisation that's Manchester based, we don't have the funding or the capacity to travel all over the country and deliver the sessions ourselves. So we'd be very much dependent on partner organisations that can access some funding that would want to deliver a programme in whatever area it was. And we'd be more than happy to share our resources and work with them to do that in that situation.
Thank you, Giles. That's really helpful. Now, you've mentioned your website. Is that the Camerata website? And I was going to say, are you able to pop the link in the chat?
No, it's the Music in Mind one. So I'll pop the link in chat now.
Put that in the chat, so that just makes it really easy for everyone to find before they get that YouTube recording. Now, I wanted to ask, and you've kind of led me on quite usefully to this, about the second Centre of Excellence, because of course that's based in a different part of the country. I think your remit is to work with them. Are you able to tell us anything about them before we go back to the questions in the chat?
Yes, somebody's already put something in chat about it, so I don't know, maybe we've got somebody from that second centre on the call, in which case I will defer to you, but it is indeed in Hertfordshire, and it's a partnership between Edge UK, care providers, and I think the university in Hertfordshire, and they are looking to develop the approach very much around care homes. And it's similar to what we've done in the sense that they're looking to train and develop music champions in care homes, not necessarily using music in mind. They'll no doubt have their own approaches, but I know they're working with music therapists to develop that training. And that was only announced earlier this year, so they're at a much earlier stage of development, I guess, in that sense than we are. So if there is anybody on the call, I don't know, from that collaboration in Hertfordshire that wants to say a little bit more about that, I would defer to you. But we are indeed working with them. I've met them several times, and they came up to Manchester and visited us at our last Inspiration Day, and we hope to return and visit in Hertfordshire when they're ready to start working on their programme.
This is a slightly naughty question, but do you know if there's going to be a third centre, or you're not allowed?
I don't honestly know, to be honest. This will be dependent on funding, because the second centre is also funded largely through private philanthropy. The second one's funded through the RAIN Foundation, and again hosted by the National Academy of Social Prescribing. But I do know that both we and they have this remit to try and share good practice and spread good practice. The issue is sharing good practice and giving information and web links and slides and hosting talks is relatively easy to do. But the challenge, and I guess it comes into another question I've seen in the chat about the funding, to deliver something like 40 music cafes across Greater Manchester is very labour intensive. I have a team working on this, the logistics, the mechanics of managing that across 15 or more different partners is quite labour intensive. So you do need active funding. And in reality, that needs to come from either grant funders or local public sector funders like the NHS and local government, or increasingly a combination of them both. And so to answer that other question, our funding is for 3 years, whereas I say just over 12 months in. It's for those three components that I mentioned, the delivery of music cafes, the research, and the learning network. The challenge for us is how we maintain and sustain this programme after the funding ends. What we're hoping is that many of these music cafes will then effectively become self-funding because their staff and volunteers will have had the training. And we know from previous programmes this does work, that several music cafes we set up 2 or 3 years ago are still going strong and running without any direct involvement from Manchester Camerata. But obviously we'd be looking to build on this and secure further funding in the future. But like everybody else, we're in a challenging environment in terms of charities and the state of funding that we're all sort of competing for. So that is the reality, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we hear this a lot. This is very common across the entire sort of third sector.
Yeah.
So I think you've really kind of tackled Andre's question, so I will leave that one. Nicole made a lovely comment. She said, I find in the latter stages a combination of music and touch in time with the music is really powerful, especially if we follow the person's lead. It can really help deepen connection and give space for expression. I expect you found this quite naturally within your wonderful work. I would certainly agree, Giles. I'm sure you would as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've just noticed a comment from Barbara around empowered conversations in Greater Manchester.
Yep.
Barbara, I will look at your YouTube link on that. That's fascinating. I'd love to hear more about that. We would very much like to do more work directly with carers organisations. One of the programmes we'd love to be able to launch, and again, we'd be looking initially to launch this in Greater Manchester because it's our home base, is more direct support for carers, whether they be family carers or paid care staff. Because again, anecdotally, we've noticed so many benefits to carers from being involved in these music making processes. We'd love to run a programme looking at carers, and particularly family carers in the home, as the prime beneficiary, if you like. So more about how do you support the carers to use music as a therapeutic tool and technique with their loved one behind closed doors when nobody else is around, because inevitably that's going to be the place where most of the time the love and care and support is given. Even though it's great to see people in our music cafes, they're only 1 hour a week. So, that leaves a lot of time where somebody is being cared for by a husband, wife, son, daughter, or whatever it may be. So I will put my email in the chat as well. And if anybody wants to get in touch afterwards, I'd be more than happy to follow up on the conversation.
That's brilliant, Giles. Thank you. And absolutely agree with you. And I think there would be a huge amount of interest for family carers to have access to those kind of approaches. As you say, most people are at home, it's behind closed doors, it's with family. And how can we help people to have a better quality of life in those situations? Really interesting question from Kate. She says, how is the project finding ways to engage with people from minority ethnic communities and musical approaches and instruments relevant to diverse communities?
Yeah, we've tried to do that, and I'll be honest with you, we've had mixed success. So we've had a couple of examples where we've gone into communities that are quite diverse in Greater Manchester. And because we work with local partners, we've picked our partners and the locations of the music cafes, in some cases, specifically with this in mind, because the easy thing is to go to an established daycare centre where there's already a group of people living with dementia that attend, and to provide a music cafe, and people love it, and that's great. but you're not then reaching, if you like, a new audience. You're already supporting people that are getting support in that daycare centre anyway. Now, they may not be getting support through music, so you are introducing something new. We've also tried in the programme to set up completely new music cafes in areas where there's been no support at all. The challenge there is building up the relationships and the trust and confidence. So, for example, we set up a new music cafe in a part of Oldham that has quite a high proportion of people with South Asian heritage, particularly Pakistani Muslim heritage. And there were lots of volunteers who were keen to come forward and work with us, but then we struggled to get participants engaged. We had all our leaflets and promotional material translated into Urdu, and we did a lot of work to try and build up, kind of connections with the community. But it takes time because we're not from that community, we're not known or trusted. There's certain kind of attitudes, I guess, towards dementia that tend to see it as something that you don't really talk about openly in many cultures. So it can be challenging. I think where we've had success doing it, it's where we've been able to partner with organisations in those communities that already have the connections and are able to work with the communities. So we have a group in Rochdale that works with ladies from South Asian heritage, and it's a place called Cusborough House, and that's been really successful because we've been able to partner with an organisation that already had the reach and connections. And these ladies have been wonderful. They've translated. We have what we call a hello and a goodbye song, which just top and tail the session. The idea of the hello song is everybody's welcomed by name. And the ladies from this group have translated that hello song into 4 different South Asian languages for us so that they can sing it in a way that's culturally appropriate. And that's been really fantastic. But I think my take from this is don't try and do that on your own. You have to work in partnership with a trusted local partner that knows those communities as a way in. But there is certainly a huge need out there. And what we found is that music is such a sort of language that cuts across all cultures and all sorts of different heritage. It connects with people, but of course it needs to be music that's culturally appropriate. So, we've then been looking at sort of more Bollywood style music and things like that, where the rhythms and the beats that people connect with are different than the probably traditional sort of British music that we might be more familiar with. So it's been a learning journey. We'd love to do more, if I'm honest, to connect with a wider range and to build our repertoire of a wider range of sort of more culturally appropriate music for different communities.
That's brilliant, Giles. Thank you. And so interesting and a great tip to work with organisations who are already known within communities and have that trust built up. We are very, very, very nearly at the end. There's some lots of lovely comments. I'm super to see this initiative flourishing. Lots of people really have really enjoyed your session today, Giles, so thank you. I think just one final question to say, and it's a really interesting question. Any ideas on how to find an orchestra for a person with dementia to play in? I know a violinist in Suffolk who would love to play in an orchestra, but nothing local to us as far as I can see.
That is a really, really interesting question, and I don't know is the short answer. All I would suggest is contact your local orchestra and ask them. But I think that's a brilliant idea, and I would love musicians with dementia to collaborate with us in Manchester. Sorry, there's somebody drilling in the background here where I am, so apologies if that's creating any background noise. But just to mention very quickly, we are doing a series of community-free open access events on the weekend and the 4th and 5th of October in Manchester. They're not specifically targeted at people living with dementia. They're open to all communities across all 10 boroughs. We're calling it Here We Are. It's about trying to make the orchestra more open and accessible to the local community. And one of the ideas that we'd really like to explore as a result of this is how we collaborate with local communities and understand the types of music they'd like to engage with and how we can collaborate with them. So I can see a little project on that developing if we have any musicians living with dementia in Greater Manchester. That's really sad to hear the local orchestra don't want to engage that lady. I'm sorry to hear that.
I saw that, and I'm thinking to myself, Giles, we have the perfect idea for the third centre, an orchestra. We've had a choir for people with dementia. Maybe the third centre, if anybody wants to fund it,
An orchestra.
An orchestra for
Well,
people.
we'd have had some examples. We had a wonderful example on one of our music cafes where it turned out there was a gentleman who had been a very accomplished pianist. And when we started the sessions, the music therapist who was playing on the keyboard would do her thing, and he was moving his fingers like this, and she noticed he was actually, although he wasn't randomly moving his fingers, he was playing the notes. So she realized he must be able to play. So she said to him, would he like to come and sit next to her and play? And at first he was very reluctant. After about 6 weeks, he just wanted to do it. He didn't even need her alongside him. He was there and he was playing, and it was amazing to see somebody who would effectively, for all intents and purposes, lost the ability to play, had now rediscovered that. And it was, a really moving process to watch, because the lesson to me is you never know who you have in the room. You don't know, sadly, the life story of the people there. And it's amazing how often you find people, we have people that were in the Boys Brigade, played drums, all sorts of things that comes out in the conversations as you get to know the participants and get to know that many of them have a musical background. We've even had a former opera singer in one of our groups who, as you can imagine, was brilliant once she got going. So yeah, there's a huge diversity of people out there that you don't know until you know, if you see what I mean.
I think that's a fantastic note to end on, Giles. Really, really interesting. I think the idea that we just don't know enough about each other and people's skills and abilities, particularly once people are living with dementia, and they're so often written off when there are so many skills and abilities that they still have to share and teach all of us as well. So just a huge thank you for your support today, Giles. I do apologise for the technical difficulties we've had, so thank you for sticking with us, and thank you to everyone in our audience for being with us today as well. I just want to signpost very quickly to our upcoming webinars. So our autumn programme currently has 4 webinars available to book onto, and there are more to be added soon. So I'm going to pop a link in the chat for you to go and book onto those, and we really hope to see you on some of our autumn webinars as our programme progresses. And just thank you so much again to Giles for your time and expertise this afternoon.
And thank you very much, everybody, for coming along. I'm sorry I wasn't able to keep on top of all the comments in chat. If you do have any outstanding questions or comments, do please drop me an email and have a look at our information on the website. And thank you very much, and good luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, all the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.